Hi! First comment of the broadcast, Mr. Craig, with the first Super Hearts of the broadcast too. Thank you so much, man. We have a big Super Heart goal today. We need 82,000 more Super Hearts to reach our goal for the day, which keeps us on track for 3 million Super Hearts this month, which makes it possible to get a $350 bonus from Periscope. So more of the money you guys spend on Super Hearts comes to the actual channel and helps to keep the channel going and growing together. Huge thank you to all these people who have contributed on the website over the last 30 days. The link is in the profile, nextjuice.com/support. Hey Rody, we are live right now on Periscope and on YouTube, and we're talking about a book that I recently finished called Rule Number 1 by Phil Town. It's a book about investing and it's made for beginners. However, actually I wanted to have this, sorry for my outfit. Went to the gym before this and going to yoga later and didn't think I was gonna have to stand up, but I forgot I wanted to show you guys this book, which is written by his daughter, which is called Invested by Danielle Town. I actually recommend that you read this one first because it's a little bit more basic and she hasn't been investing as long as her father Phil, so it's a little bit easier to digest, and I just found this to be, I read this one first and I'm glad I did it in that order because it wasn't as overwhelming to me. It made it really feel possible for me to learn about investing. And this is about investing in stocks and businesses, but I will briefly talk about mutual funds, Roth IRAs, things like that, for other investment alternatives if this is too much for you. But this is the book we are doing today. Rule Number 1, The Simple Strategy for Successful Investing in Only 15 Minutes a Week by Phil Town. But keep in mind, he does say in this book, every new company that you are considering investing in is going to take between 4 and 10 hours of research prior to actually buying the shares. And once you actually own the company, then he's saying that you only need to really check on things for about 2 minutes a day. I think it's a bit of an exaggeration. I do think it's more time consuming than that, especially as a new investor and as a new student and someone who's learning. But I do think that it's worth it to make money for you rather than working really hard and then your money being lost to inflation every single year. So okay, so thanks for telling me to go back and read your message. So I want to warn you guys, if you do, really step one with your money is to get out of debt. Get out of bad debt, like credit card debt, things that have high interest rates and aren't really necessary for your survival. Things like a mortgage on your house and a payment on your car, these things are considered more necessary for your life. You know, you might have to drive your kids around to and from school. You might need to actually bring yourself to and from school. You might need to go to and from work, so you might need a car, right? And you probably need somewhere to live. So these forms of debt are not considered bad debt. They're considered good debt, potentially. Not necessarily good. It's kind of like neutral debt, and they tend to have a much lower interest rates than something like a credit card. So the first thing is to get rid of credit card debt, get rid of all your bad debt with high interest and and things that aren't really necessary to survival. Second, I would say learn how not to spend money on things that aren't really necessary, or in relation to how much money you have, you really need to learn how to save it and not spend all of it. Okay. Forever, hey, how are you? First comment on YouTube. When you have more money than you need and you're starting to save and you have enough money that you feel like your savings account's looking pretty good, now you're trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do now? Because just leaving my money in my savings account or storing my money in a safe or under the mattress, where people think is like the safest way to make sure that your money stays the amount that it is when you get it. Well, unfortunately, there's something called inflation, and every single year you lose about 3% of your money to inflation. Therefore, you're actually losing money by just holding on to it. So you want to put it into something that grows at least 3% per year so that you can at least keep up with inflation and keep pace with inflation. So if you don't know anything about investing, you're not interested in learning about investing, you're probably not in here if that's you, but if you just want to be able to protect your money against inflation, You don't want to learn all of this intense stuff that we're about to go over here together with the investment math and with the investing strategies and techniques, then I would recommend just investing in something like a mutual fund, which tends to do about 3% per year. But keep an eye out for fees. So sometimes you have to pay the fund manager for managing the fund, like an ETF or something like that. You also may have to pay, if you are getting a financial advisor or you're having someone do this for you, they usually have a fee. And chances are, and even the taxes, so if you make any amount of money on this, once you cash out, once you want to take the cash out, you have to pay tax to take your money back, and you end up losing money anyway in the process. So you definitely don't want to lose more than 3%. If you're looking at losing more than 3%, then you should really just, thank you, Rody, you should really just stick with saving your money and try to figure out a way that you can grow that money more. Now, I did do a book review earlier this year on the autobiography of Andrew Carnegie and his essay, The Gospel of Wealth. I loved that book. I really enjoyed it, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And he really says that the best thing you can invest in is your own business. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business, then maybe you want to invest in your own business or your own education, your own advancement. But I also just recently finished a book. I did a review on it not too long ago called Profit First. And that's also important. You have to focus on profit over growth. So you don't want to just invest money into your business because you have excess money and you just think that that's what you're supposed to do, try to grow it, because you don't want to cut into your profits either. So an alternative is to invest in someone else's business as long as you're almost certain that this business is going to give you a good return on your investment over time. Another form of investment that I'm actually going to be setting up, I'm supposed to set it up today, hopefully I'll have time to do that, is called a Roth IRA, and this is for retirement. So this is money that I cannot touch until I am at least 59 and a half years old. So this goes for all of you. You have to be at least 59 and a half years old, and you have to have had the investment account, the Roth IRA, for at least 5 years before you cash it out. And the benefit of this is that it's tax-free. So you actually don't pay any tax on the money that you take out of the account. So obviously you don't pay tax if you lost money on your investments anyway, but if you had any kind of gains, what are called capital gains, gains in the stock market, then you don't have to pay that with a Roth IRA. So there's a catch with that. One, you can't touch it till you're 59 and a half. Two, you have to have had it for at least 5 years before you touch it. Otherwise, you're going to pay early disbursement penalties and fees. But also, you're going to have to, you can only put a certain amount of money into it every single year. So if you make less than $122,000 a year, you can only put $6,000 per year into your Roth IRA. That's as of 2019 when I'm doing this live stream. So that's not very much money if you have excess money. So you really want to max that out, because especially the younger you are, the quicker you can start maxing out the amount you can put in your Roth IRA, the better, because of the effects of compounding. So say you make 10% on your investments in your Roth IRA. Well, let's even be more conservative than that. Let's say 5%. Say you make a 5% return. So say you had, just for math's sake, you had $100 invested. Well, then you make $5 extra, you get a 5% return on your investment. So then the next year, you get another 5% return on your investment. Well, now it's 5% of $105. So you get a couple extra dollars. And then it's $5 of what? Like $112.50, and then it's a little bit more than that. So that 5% return, if you can keep that steady, is going to compound and be worth more every single year. And by the time you retire, hopefully you put that money to good work. Also, as you get older, hopefully you're going to be making more and more money and getting into a higher tax bracket, which means you're paying more to tax from your income, but it also means that once you earn over $122,000 a year, you now have to, you can now contribute even less than $6,000 to the Roth IRA every year. Dr. Waddell said his started at 14 years old. That is amazing. Kudos to your parents for that. Hey, Carrie. Hey, Finley. And in terms of once you're over, I believe it's $233,000 per year, you actually can't contribute to a Roth IRA at all. So if you do intend to make more money as you get older, then you want to max these out now. The earlier you do it, the better, because of compounding, but also because if you start making too much money, then you're not going to be able to contribute to it at all. And all of your investments, you're going to have to take into account tax and them taking capital gains tax if you make money on your investments. So that's my kind of preface to the world of investing. A lot of this I got from this book. Other things I tried to reference anywhere I learned about this stuff. And I think Warren Buffett has a quote that says, if you don't know what you're doing, just invest in mutual funds. So that's probably the vast majority of us. So feel free to invest in mutual funds, but keep an eye out on fees, hidden fees. You don't want to lose more money in your mutual fund than you would lose just keeping it in your savings account, right? And having it in the savings account makes it relatively liquid. So if there's an emergency, something you really need it for, it's there. That can be a dangerous temptation because you may think something is an emergency that's really not. So it's all about judgment, using your best instincts on these things, and not making someone else rich with your money, but using your own money to increase your own wealth. Hey Cosmic, hey everyone. Okay, so here we go. Rule number 1. What is rule number 1? Anybody know? Rule number 1 is don't lose money. Don't lose money. That's the rule. So they've developed this system based off of the concepts of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, two of the most successful investors in the world from Berkshire Hathaway. Sorry, my neck is really sore all of a sudden. And the idea is to not lose money and to make as sure of a bet as possible. This is not day trading. This is buy and hold investing. This is something where you invest in a company for the long haul because you really have confidence in this company. You follow the 10-10 rule. If you wouldn't own this business for 10 years, then you're not going to own it for 10 minutes. So you have to have the long term, the big picture in view when you're doing this, and you're only investing in companies that you would actually want to own a part of. Hey Joel, hey Leela, I think I saw you come in the beginning. Hi, if you're still here. So you want to look for the 4 M's in any company that you're considering. So go ahead, pick a company you think you might like to invest in. If you're at the level that you've cleared out debt, you know how to save your money, you have a surplus, you've set up your retirement, now you have extra money left over from that. So now what are you going to do with it? Oh, another thing with Roth IRA is that your money is self-directed. So you can still invest in private companies, which some things like I think mutual funds, 401ks, you can't, I'm sorry, not mutual funds, 401k, which is also retirement. You can't actually invest in private companies a lot of times. You're kind of limited to what you can actually invest in with a 401k. And in this book, he only recommends investing into a 401k if you're working for a company that matches your contributions to your 401k. Okay? Also a retirement account. But if you're an entrepreneur, then a Roth IRA is probably your best bet. And you can choose what company you can buy and sell within the fund without having any tax penalties. So if you invest in a company based off of the rules we're going to talk about next, and it works and you're right and you make money off of it, and then you sell it, you're not selling it for cash, you're just selling it within the Roth IRA and then taking that money and investing it in something else. So if you want to invest in mutual funds or ETFs while you're figuring out what companies are best to buy and sell, then you could do something like that. One of my friends recently recommended to me the Vanguard index fund. It's an ETF for a company that he believes is a great company in the finance industry, also has really solid management and pretty decent returns in terms of a fund where you own a little piece of a lot of different companies. Hey Boxing, thank you for the compliment. Sorry if I'm missing any comments, guys. I'm kind of in the zone here. All right, so the 4 M's that you want to look for when you pick a company, I'm going to use Twitter as an example. The reason I use Twitter is because I've already run all these numbers on Twitter, because I invested in Twitter prior to knowing any of this stuff from reading any of these books, and I got it for about $18 at the end of 2017, and now today, July 8th, 2019, actually I didn't actually check it today, I'll check it right now. Twitter is priced at $36.44. So that's a 100% return on my investment in about a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half. I'd say that's pretty good. Now, I didn't do that based off of this system, but that is why I use this company, because it's the only shares that I actually own in a company. I'm pretty new to this myself, so we're all learning this together. If you have questions, comments, please do type them in the chat. If you're watching on the replay, feel free to direct message me on Twitter or Instagram, or email me at nextjuice@gmail.com. It's nextjuice everywhere. And let me know if you have book recommendations or any questions, anything you want to talk about. I read all my messages, all comments. I get back to everything every single week. Okay? Let's get to it. The 4 M's. So you're looking at this company and you're deciding if it has the 4 M's for you. So I can't get up here and say, you should invest in Twitter. I think that Twitter is a good, and well, I got lucky in terms of my investment success so far. But for me, Twitter was a company that I know pretty well, because if you're watching me on Periscope, you probably know Periscope is the live streaming app owned by Twitter, and I love Periscope. It's my favorite app. It's the app I use more than any other app on my phone, and I think it has so much potential, and it's still such a baby, and it's so unknown that it just, to me, it's the best live streaming app I've ever seen, and I've tried a lot of them. It's withstood the test of time at least a bit. You know, it's been around for over 4 years now. It just started to monetize, so broadcasters can now make money off of their streams about 2 years ago, and it also doesn't have any ads on it or anything. I assume that one day they're going to introduce ads to the platform. I can't imagine that they won't, and I think that's going to cause the revenue to skyrocket as well. Plus, Twitter just had a really, really good report in earnings this year. They're finally reporting profit and generating actual profit from their revenue, which is also very amazing and a very good indicator of, hopefully, the future. Now, nobody knows the future. The history doesn't always predict the future, but so far things look pretty good from where I'm sitting. And I also work with this company, and I don't work with the company, I don't work for the company, right? But I work with Periscope, I work with their app, I'm on Twitter every single day. So it's something that personally has a lot of meaning to me. I think live streaming is the media of the future. I see how much it helps people all around the world in so many different ways. The people who broadcast get amazing exposure, and the people who watch the broadcast get great education, entertainment, connections, friendships. I've met over 100 people in person that I've met through the app of Periscope, and this is Periscope. All of this is made possible because Twitter has bought them and made it so accessible and put it more into the public eye. Obviously, with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, he uses Twitter a lot. He's brought a lot of attention to the app. If you watch TV shows, a lot of times they have hashtags. You see people's tweets. I mean, this is all using Twitter's interface. So it doesn't seem to me like Twitter is a company that's about to go out of business or is really doing too poorly. So that's something to me that has a lot of meaning. So that's the first M. You want a company that has meaning to you, and also something that you can understand. You want it to be a company and an industry that you can understand. Maybe you don't understand it right now, but you could understand it if you did the research. Like I said, 4 to 10 hours of research is going to go into every new company you're considering buying. So it takes some time to do that. And you're always buying shares in the company as if you would want to own the entire company. If you wouldn't own the entire business, then don't buy any shares at all. Don't own a tiny piece of it either. It has to have meaning to you. You would be proud to own this company, okay? So that's meaning. You also are going to have to listen to quarterly calls. You're going to have to read a lot of financial reports and really long-winded letters to the shareholders. I mean, there's going to be a lot that you have to read and look into and consume about this company, and you want it to be something you're actually interested in, that you can sit there and have the patience and focus to absorb all that material every single year, every single quarter, so that you're keeping your finger on the pulse of that business, just like you should keep your finger on the pulse of your own business and your own financial situation. Hi, Sonam. Hello. Okay. The second M is a moat. You want your company you want the company you're talking about or the company you're looking at to have a strong moat. And I do want to say thank you to Boxing for talking about how cool our Next Juice shirts are. Nextjuice.com, click merch. You can get your own Next Juice merch, and that helps us to keep content like this going and growing. Yes, the castle. I love that. Castle emoji. Yes, someone put the castle emoji up. Exactly. Excuse me. So what's a moat? If you don't know what a moat is, it's the big river of water around the castle to keep people from being able to attack the castle. This company is the castle. You want something strong and formidable, something challenging surrounding your castle to keep outside attacks from happening. You're still always susceptible to inside attacks, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with insider trading and management, but for now we're just going to talk about the moats. So the 5 moats are a brand moat, a secrets moat, thanks Manalvo, a toll moat, a switching moat, and a price moat. Hey John, hey Bill. Moat, something that keeps startups from competing. Potentially, Joel. Yeah, if you have a strong moat, you don't want any other company competing with you, whether it's a startup or an established business. That's just basic business sense. You want to stand out among the competition. You don't want to be easily attacked. So, a brand moat is a product you're willing to pay more for because you trust it. Examples of this are like Coke, Gillette, Disney, McDonald's, Pepsi, Nike, Budweiser, Harley Davidson. These are the examples from the book. You can probably think of a lot of brands that you recognize and trust just because it's that brand. And I think Twitter has that. The next is a secrets moat. Apple is a good one. A business that has a patent or trade secret that makes direct competition illegal or very difficult. So this is something that might be covered by the government. It's protected by the government, saying that, they basically can't have competition. Things like the electric companies a lot of times have a pretty strong secrets moat. You just basically can't compete with them. Also things like secret recipes, the secret recipe for like Dr. Pepper or something like that, where it has this trade secret that people don't know about. I think KFC has like their secret ingredients, their secret recipe for their chicken, and that's considered a secrets moat. If you read through, so I didn't think that Twitter had something like that, but then when I was reading through their reports, I realized that they have a lot of patents and protections against a lot of the different elements of software that they use and different things that are elements of their business that they actually have patented, which means if something's patented, no other company can use that legally, and that's a secret. That's a trade secret. It's a protection. It's a type of moat for a business. Another moat is a toll. A business with this is actually more what I was talking about with the electric companies. A business with exclusive control of a market, giving it the ability to collect a toll from anyone needing that service or product. Media companies, utilities, and ad agencies would be an example of that. Like CBS, CNN, these types of things. The next one is switching, a switching moat. This is a business that's so much a part of your life that switching isn't worth the trouble. So maybe it's a gym, right? You go to this gym, like for me, I go to Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness is really close to my house. It's probably close to your house too, because there's like 2,000 of them in America alone. So it's close by. The price is another moat, but it's convenient. You know the people there. You're already signed up. You had to go through the whole sign-up enrollment process and the enrollment fees, and it would just be a pain to switch over. And I think with social media, you have that a little bit. Like new companies that come out that want to be the new Facebook, the new social media company, they have a really hard time piercing that switching moat because people don't want to switch because all their friends, all their family are already on this one platform. So to switch is just too much of a pain and a hassle, and it's not really attractive because not everybody is over there. So it's really hard for a new company like social media to get in on that. I didn't really feel like Twitter had that too much when I was first studying it, because I feel like it's not really that hard to go between Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, because people are kind of on all of those. I also know that Facebook and Instagram have more users than Twitter. But with Twitter, there's access to celebrities. So I feel like Twitter really has the best way of communicating between just regular everyday people, average people, and celebrities, and that's really unique, and you don't really find that. I haven't really found that on a lot of other apps or platforms, so I feel like they have that switching mode, at least, you know, if nothing else. Hey David. Hey the Sugar, how are you, Linda? And Microsoft is a good example. Microsoft to Apple, that, you know, it's kind of hard to switch between the two, so they have that switching mode. And then finally, the price mode. This is a business that can price products so low no one can compete. Examples are Walmart, Costco, Home Depot, Target. So the price mode, and I think Planet Fitness has that in terms of the fitness industry as well. Planet Fitness might actually be a good company for me to look into. I'm going to add that to my watch list. Sorry to do this live. I just sometimes think of things while I'm live and don't want to forget. Excuse me. So it's good to keep a watch list of companies that you would consider owning in the future, and you want to do the research on them. Even if you don't have time to do it right now, you want to do it at some point, so you put it on your watch list. Which apparently I did not call it watch list. Wish list. Wish list, watch list. Okay, there it is. And if you're curious, ones I have on mine, so I just put Planet Fitness on there. Companies I have on mine that I want to apply the system we're going to learn about today to are Square, which is a payments company, Google AdSense, DoubleClick Ad Exchange, Nexage, BrightRoll Ad Exchanges, Oath, which was formerly known as AOL's Ad.com, and Microsoft Media Network. These are all ad companies that compete with Twitter. So these are basically the competition to the company that I own. So these are companies I'm interested in learning more about. I don't know that I really want to own companies that directly compete with each other, but maybe I do, and I do want to learn more about what maybe these companies have that the business, you know, what kind of moats do they have in compared to the business that I already own. KakaoLine is an international messaging app that also competes with Twitter. I found out about all these companies by reading Twitter's reports. So when you find a company that you're interested in, you're researching, you'll often hear them call by name a lot of their competition, a lot of companies you may not even know about, things from other countries, and you can put that onto your wish list or your watch list to learn about in the future. Perfect, Linda. It sounded like you handled that perfectly. Kudos to you. Don't let them get you down. It's a good sign. The more you do, the better you do, the more positivity and the more light you shine, and the more success you have, the more you grow, the more you'll find people that don't want that for you. And it's actually a good sign when you have people trying to slow you down. In religion, and in the Christian religion, they say something like, when the devil is attacking you, that's a good sign, because it shows that he sees you as a threat and he's trying to slow you down. He doesn't want you to reach your goals. So you just tell him to hush, or as Rhodey says, shush, and you move forward. I have Google, Apple, Netflix, PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, Oragenics, which was something that Derek VL recommended to me. I have JetBlue, Spirit, and Frontier, all budget airlines. Weyerhaeuser, Potlatch, Rayonier. These are all timber stocks that were recommended by Andrew Tobias's investment guidebook. These are again more like stocks that would generate maybe 3 or 4%, just to keep up with inflation. And then CanTrust was one that Kieran recommended to me, and then I just put Planet Fitness on my watch list. So just to give you an idea, to get those juices flowing, what are companies that you interact with on a daily basis, something that you're interested in, it has meaning to you, and you could potentially understand the company and understand the industry that it operates within. Okay, so we talked about the moats, we talked about it needs to have meaning to you. The other two M's, so we talked about meaning and moats, now we're talking about management. You want the company you're looking at to have a solid management team. They need to be owner-oriented. You need a management team that's trying to do good things for the owner or owners of the company. So if you start your own company, you own your company, and you delegate someone to be a manager, that person should be, in a way, they work for you, right? You own the company, you've hired them, you pay them, you make sure they get paid for their management, you train them, you teach them everything they know, and then you watch what they do. If they try to cut you out of the picture, if they screw over all your customers, if they take your trade secrets and start selling them, if they're doing a poor job managing, you cut them loose. Now, unfortunately, with some of these bigger companies that are actually traded on the stock market, and they're much larger than just, me running a business, you have a board of directors, you have, CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, COOs, and there's a lot of politics that tend to come into play, and a lot of people who are politically inclined, and they're kind of like politician style management. You do not want to buy a company that has a political type leadership group. As much as possible, you want an owner-oriented management group. Ways that you can tell this are they're going to be humble, they're going to take responsibility when things go bad with the company, they're going to be transparent, they're going to let you know when bad things are coming, as things are changing, they're going to let you know why something went wrong. They're not going to pull an Enron on you where they just act like everything is fine and keep telling you to buy the company when they know it's going down the drain, and they're basically selling off all their shares in secret and then taking millions and millions of dollars every year as their paycheck. That's another thing. You want to make sure they're getting paid a reasonable amount for the job. Being the CEO, being an executive of a high level company is a pretty stressful and demanding job, so it does usually make in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if it's like millions of dollars, you might want to look into that and say, is that really a reasonable amount? Why are they getting so much of the money that's generated by this business? Are they really worth that much? Why are they being paid so much? Is there any kind of politics at play here? You kind of have to look into that. And that's really, to me, that was very fun, because I was not born or raised rich. I'm not rich now, but I find rich people very interesting. And to learn about how much money these people make, and to see what their lifestyles are like, and to look at their social media, to me was actually really fun. That was a fun part of the research from where I sit. Hey, Ibrahim. Okay. And then the fourth M is a margin of safety. A margin of safety means that we want to get $1 worth of value for 50 cents. We want to buy a company half off. We never want to buy something at full price, because that's too risky. There's too much at play. The market is not efficient. There's something called EMH. Whitey, I actually run my own company, so I'm not employed, so I don't have a 401k now. So, but I did talk about 401ks in the beginning. If you have an employer that matches your 401k contributions, that's a good plan for retirement. Otherwise, a Roth IRA is my top suggestion from this book, Rule Number 1 by Phil Town. Thanks for sharing this out on Twitter, guys. Now, the market, EMH, efficient market hypothesis. This is something that says that the market is perfectly efficient. This means that the price that you see on the stock market is the exact price that meets demand. So if you don't know, I'll give you a little basic economics. As demand increases on a product, supply on the product decreases, and you find a halfway point. You find a price, the perfect price is right at the intersection of those two lines, where you have the right amount of demand and the right amount of supply to meet the demand. If you have a lot of supply, if you have a lot of product and no demand for it, then your price, you have to keep lowering your price, until somebody actually wants to buy it, and that can be really challenging. If you have a lot of demand and very little supply, very little product, then you can charge a lot more for it, and you should, because you need to be able to keep up with that demand, and you start to eliminate a lot of people from the demand pile as you increase the price. Or as you decrease the price, you increase the amount of people who can now have demand and actually purchase and use your product or service. So the perfect price would be right at the perfect balance between supply and demand. Is that really reflected by the stock market? Maybe sometimes, almost never. There's always emotions that play here. There's always reasons that people get in or get out. not based on logic, not based on reason, not based on supply and demand, based on personal things in their life, based on something that they decide they don't like about the company, not really in regards to numbers, logic, or reason, but just something that rubs them the wrong way. They're not into it anymore, or a manager they don't like, something like that. There's people who are racist. There are people who are sexist. So these people, you know, if you put a woman in charge, they might sell off because they don't think that it, you know, that they don't want to own a company that's run by a woman. You never know. There's a lot of things that have nothing to do with efficiency. It's not purely emotion, but emotions play a role here. Now the reality is most of the big swings and changes in the prices in the actual market are set by the big guys. These are set by the multi-billion-dollar fund managers that are moving tons of money around on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And they can really, really, really impact. So if you have one company, let's say, that owns, you know, 100 million shares in a company, and they decide to offload all their shares one day, maybe not because there's something particularly wrong with that company, but they want to free up that money because they want to buy a better opportunity over here. Well, the price of that stock is going to plummet because it looks like, oh my God, there's no demand for this anymore and a lot of supply, so now the price is going to drop. That doesn't necessarily mean that anything bad happened to the company. What that does mean is now that company is on sale. And if you still think that that company has the 4 M's, and I'll tell you how you can tell outside of just your own research like we talked about so far and your own critical thinking and analytical reasoning, then you could buy it now on sale. And that's what we want to look for. We want to look for things that are underpriced about half. We want to try to get things that are half off as much as possible because that's a margin of safety that gives us a little room for error and gives the company a little room to kind of, you know, wiggle around without us having to panic too much. Both supply and demand are elastic. Hey, Blackberry Kush, how are you? Meaning, moat, management, margin of safety. You got it, Joel. Perfect. The 4 M's. Good job taking notes. I love that. I love that. And I took my own notes on this too. I'll share those with you at the end. Just remind me if I forget. So now, how do you know if they have these 4 M's? So you look at it, you say, I think they do. They have their brand moat, and they don't have to have all the moats, but maybe they do. They have a brand moat, secret moat, toll moat, switching moat, price moat. They have good, solid management. They have a lot of meaning to you. You can understand the company and the industry. And then margin of safety is more of a pricing thing, which we'll get to really kind of more at the end. Whether or not, that's basically you have to determine what the sticker price is, what a good reasonable value and price, what a good reasonable price would be for the value you get in exchange for a share, and how much it would be 50% off. And you want to try to buy it at that price. Okay, so the way we do this is through the big 5 numbers. The big 5 numbers. And you can write these down if you want, but I'm going to share my notes with you guys at the end, so you'll be able to actually you can take a screenshot or something of my notes if you like. But it's always good to, if you write something down, you're going to remember it better. If you just take a screenshot, you might lose it somewhere, so writing it down is really nice. Good job, Joel. Joel's going to make more money than most of the people that watch this, I bet. Okay, at least he's going to understand this better than other people. Okay, so your big 5 numbers indicate if your company has a moat or not. 1 is earnings per share, EPS. Hey, Juicy. Earnings per share. The second is the sales, the total sales of the company. The third is the equity of the company. So this is like the assets minus the liabilities. And we'll talk about it. Don't worry. Don't panic if you don't know all the words. We're just going over it, and then I can show you. Fourth is cash, actual cash on hand, actual cash, actual money. Okay, not just accounts receivable, and not everything is tied up in loans and debt to somebody else, but actual cash. And then, or cash flow. They have cash flow statements, free cash flow. I think it's called on the financial statements, free cash flow. And then fifth is your return on your invested capital. Now these numbers, so you're not just looking at this year right now, you know, what were their sales in 2018? what was their earnings per share? Well, you do want to look at that. You want to see how were they last year. Yeah, the moat to protect the castle. You want to see how are the numbers last year. But that's not really much to go off of, right? Unless you know how they performed prior to that. We can't really predict the future, but we can look into the past. And what you want to find is a company that has at least 10 years of data that you have access to. Twitter does not meet this rule. Twitter won't have met that rule for another like 4 years or so. I believe they went public in 2013. Doing this off the top of my head, I might be off a little bit, but they only really have like 6 years of numbers to look back on. So again, the Twitter doesn't actually meet the rule number 1 guidelines. That doesn't really meet this system. I just happened to invest in it before I knew anything about investing. I got really lucky, so I use them as my example because I haven't actually plugged any other companies into this system. I haven't actually researched anything else right now. Thank you, Rody. Yeah, let me just, I don't really know what that was about. Hey, Carol. Your earnings were 0. Okay, then you don't have nothing to invest, and you have to figure out how to generate income for yourself before you ever invest anything. That's what I talked about in the beginning, and my guess why there's not a ton of people here, because most people are in debt and not generating enough money, not saving money, so therefore they can't invest anything. Hey, how are you, Carol? But for those of us who can, this is for you. Now, you want to look at the last 10 years, the last 5 years, and the last 1 year. So for me personally, when I read his daughter's book, so this is the book we're talking about now, Rule Number 1 by Phil Town. But before reading this one, I read this one, Invested, by his daughter, Danielle Town. And she actually just said to look back at the last 10 years. I don't at least recall her saying anything about the 5-year and the 1 year, but he does talk about that in this book, so that's something I'll have to add to my spreadsheets. You're not going to see that in my spreadsheets as I go through this. And so all of these numbers should be increasing at a rate of 10% per year. You want to be seeing a 10% or more return on, or sorry, not return, a 10% or more increase in all 5 of those big numbers. Earnings per share, sales, equity, cash, and ROIC, return on invested capital. So EPS for earnings per share, ROIC for return on invested capital, earnings per share, sales, equity, cash, return on invested capital. You want all of those numbers to be increasing at least 10% per year. That will indicate that this company has a strong moat or multiple moats protecting itself and is much more, it has a lot less risk than a different company, right? Plus you're looking at that, you see that it's 10% plus return on your investment, which is more than the 3% for inflation, but it's also, you lose 3% for inflation just because the value of the dollar goes down. So no matter where your money is, you're losing that 3% every year no matter what, as long as you're in cash. Then in addition to that, you're going to have to pay tax on your gains. So this isn't something you want to sell after a year because you have to pay, I think capital gains tax is like 15%. So this is something where you have that compound 10% per year, and then that compounds on itself. So in 10 years or more, when you look at it, you want to own this company for 20 years, especially if you're younger. So you're like, okay, I'm going to sell this company in 20 years. So 10% per year gives you a margin of safety. Again, margin of safety. Plus, if they are SWOT, it's SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They didn't talk about that in this book, so I'm not going to talk about that right now. I've talked about that on this channel many times. If you want to look it up, it's SWOT, S-W-O-T. You want to look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. You should do it on your own company as well. Thanks for inviting, Carol. So put that into a spreadsheet somewhere. You want to have this on your computer. It's going to be easier to track all this stuff. Once you've done your research, you find the company has good meaning to you, you're comfortable with its management, then you can look at the big 5 numbers to see if they have a moat by looking to make sure they're increasing at 10% per year over the last 10 years. Excuse me. Not what your college taught you. What's not what your college taught you? Okay. And then margin of safety, you're getting $1 value for 50 cents. Great. I have my notes down here so I don't forget anything. Now I'll show you how to figure out the margin of safety valuation. Try not to freak out. Okay? Can you promise me that you're not going to freak out when you see all these numbers? these numbers didn't just appear. I'm not a math genius. I just bit by bit went through the book, put these numbers into a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet did all the math for me, and I just took it one step at a time. So one of the chapters in this book is actually called Take Baby Steps. Okay, baby steps. All together now. Baby steps. I think my internet is crashing. Somehow didn't drop frames. Not exactly sure what's happening, but my spreadsheet is not really loading very good, so give me a moment. Okay, here we go. Good. Okay, here we go. Breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. I'm not a math genius. Property, casualty, companies make most of their money by investing premiums until claims are paid. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, same thing with banks. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you. Don't freak out. That didn't work. Okay, here we go. And pat yourself on the back. You've made it through 45 minutes already. All right, now we're getting to the heavier stuff. It's like a lecture style broadcast today. Okay, so these are the numbers for Twitter since 2011. So their IPO was actually, I think it was actually in 2013. So you first started being able, maybe it was 2014. I have it written down somewhere. Hang on, let me just check this real quick. Twitter IPO, November 7th, 2013. That's what it was. So the end of 2013. So they did provide numbers back a couple of years when they did their IPO. So you have some numbers back from 2011, but you don't have numbers before that, so you can't actually determine your percentages of increase on any of these things. Also, we didn't know this number here, so anyway, don't worry about 2011. So all the other numbers, especially from 2014, after they had an IPO, they reported all of these numbers. I pulled as many numbers as I could find. Ideally, you're going to have a company that goes back at least 10 years, so all the way to 2009, and you're going, or actually 2008, and you're going to be able to look at all of these numbers for the last 10 years. Twitter is our example. It's not a perfect example, but here it is. So you have their profit, revenue. Now, some of these things, I developed this spreadsheet based off of the book Invested, which was by Danielle Town, the daughter of Phil Town, who wrote this book that we're talking about today. And not all of this was talked about in his book. So again, we're kind of have like a combination. We have the best of both books here. Equity, operating cash, equity plus debt, which is really like the two numbers combined. And you have return on equity. So you can see that there was no, this should actually not be anything because there was no number. That's a 0, so we don't want that number there. So we have a loss every single year, but you'll see that it's getting less each year, so it seems like it's going to go positive. And then boom, in 2018, when they announced all of their numbers in February of this year, it was well above the projections of all of the professionals. They had a 17.71% return on equity, an almost 12% return on invested capital, and those are some good numbers that we want to see. However, we want to see these numbers for 10 years before we ever invest in this company. So again, Twitter is not one of the companies that is following the rules that we're talking about here, but this is how you plug the numbers in. You go online, you look up the company. If it's a publicly traded company, which means it's available on the stock market, then you can find all these numbers very easily online on like MarketWatch.com or NASDAQ. Thank you, GC. I did write all the numbers, yeah. But I got them from the internet. I mean, it's really easy. I just copied the numbers. So you look at the income statements, you look at the free cash flow statements, and just look at the reports, basically, on, like, the NASDAQ. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Orange. All right. So then other numbers, so I needed a lot of these numbers because I needed to calculate some of the forms of pricing that were in the book Invested. I've already done my reviews and talks about that book, so I don't want to totally overwhelm you guys. If you're wondering what these numbers mean, I'll just quickly go over what these headings are here. So like I just said, return on equity, return on invested capital. Hey, Seppi. I don't even know how to say this. Oh, depreciation, that's what it was. Depreciation and amortization, accounts receivable, accounts payable, income tax, maintenance, capital expenditures, owner earnings, 10 cap price. Oh, 10 cap price, this was a form of pricing that we did for the invested book, the old book that I did, so that you could determine the price per share. So this means if you want to be able to sell this company off in 10 years, then you would buy this company for this amount of money. So $12 would be the price right now. Like I said in the beginning or earlier in the broadcast, Twitter is currently trading at $36 per share. So that is not the price that we want to buy it at, but it is something we can keep an eye on, and we can say, okay, when it gets to $12, we would like to buy it. 450 billion. Dang, that's crazy. See, yeah, I'm gonna plug Apple into my spreadsheet at some point as well. So all I'm doing is I basically figured out the owner earnings times 10, I believe. Yep, times 10. Divided by the number of shares. That brings you to the earnings per share. And then payback time is here. Sorry guys, I just wanted you guys to know where the numbers come from. This is where you get, this is 15. So wait, the 10 cap, sorry guys, I haven't done this in a little while. 10 cap and payback time are two different things. I forget how I got this. Oh, just divide. Oh, this is the number here. That's how you divide. Earnings per share is based on the number of shares divided into the net profit. Okay, sorry. I'm kind of refreshing my own memory here. And an estimated growth rate is something that you totally just guess off the top of your head. I have nothing to go off of really too much with them, so I try to be conservative. I say 10%. They grew at significantly more than 10% from 2017 to 2018. They grew, what was it? So they went from, hang on, math, 14, 7, what is it, like almost 900% or something? Am I doing that right? Is it even more? It's a lot of percent, okay? They went from losing $14 per share to making $1.57 per share. So if I estimate that grows by 10% each year, in the next 10 years, each share will be generating earnings of $4, showing the power of compounding here. And our reasonable price for today, therefore, becomes $22.40. So what you do is you just take your earnings per share. This is your margin of safety price. Sorry for a little bit of confusion here. So to determine your margin of safety price, all you need is your earnings per share, which you figure out the number of shares, which again is just a simple Google result. Like how many shares of Twitter are there? There is a little bit less before this year, so they watered down the stock a bit. They added another 6.6 million shares, and that caused this to be a bit different. So you want to make sure you check the number of shares every year because they do change it. Sorry, Carol. So you put number of shares, you divide the net profit here, which again will be on the income statement, by the number of shares. That gives you the earnings per share. You have to come up with what you think the growth rate will be. The best way to do this is to look at the historical growth rates, and you'd be surprised. Here, hi guys, breathe, keep breathing. That's not the right one. I'm going to show you my notes. Is to look at the growth rates in a particular order, because the earnings per share growth rate is actually not the best one to look at. I think it's equity you want to look at, but I'm going to double check. Crazy good, I hope. I really enjoy this. And if it's too much for you, just message me. We can go over it together. You can get a private call with me too for like $25 or something. Nextjuice.com, click shop. I also am going to be talking about this a lot in our next mastermind call, which is next Sunday, and that's only $20. It is a group call though, but it can go for hours. So investing here. Here we go. Okay. So some of this stuff, again, was from the other book. Don't worry about all that. Well, you can kind of see some of the stuff I was talking about. The 4 M's: meaning, moat, management, margin of safety. Okay, we talked about all this today. The different moats: brand, switching, toll, secrets, and price. A little bit different order there. Debt should be able to be paid off within 3 years with the free cash flow. I didn't mention that, but that is on here as well. Checking for insider trading. We'll talk about that in a moment. You can just do it, okay? You want to know if the people at the top of the company are selling off all of their shares. That indicates something bad is about to happen, and you might want to sell yours as well. So you can actually see that looking at insider transactions on Yahoo Finance. Yay, Carol. Okay, so these are the 4 growth rates in order of importance. The equity growth is actually more important than the earnings per share growth. Then the earnings per share growth is next. Then the sales or profit growth, the cash flow growth, and you want these to all be at least 10%. So you pull 10 years of numbers, so it's actually for a 9-year period, 5 years, and 3 years. So when you look at those numbers, you can come up with an estimated growth rate, which I put at 10%. You might be less or more. Just figure out what you think that will be. You're going to plug in your earnings per share. You're going to multiply that number by 1.1 if your estimated growth rate is 10%. And that's just going to keep on going. So that's going to then add the 10% to this one, and then this one, and then this one, 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 this one. And that's going to give you, how can I make this as easy as possible? So this is all in the book. You guys should probably read the book if you really want to know all this. But the estimated P to E ratio, which is price to earnings ratio, is it's the lesser of the highest it's been in the last 10 years or 2 times your estimated growth rate. So because my estimated growth rate is 10, 20 is actually less than what the highest P to E ratio was for Twitter. So I just used double that, so 20. So I take my number times 20, divide by 4. That is the the rule of 72. It's a weird math thing. He went into it in the book. It's not as important to understand it as it is to just know that you divide it by 4. So you divide by 4, and then you divide. So that's a reasonable price today. That is the sticker price. So if Twitter was priced at $22.40, that would be a reasonable and what we would call the right price for Twitter today. But we don't pay the sticker price for anything. We want half off. So you just divide that number by 2, and this is your margin of safety price. So when Twitter becomes $11.20, I am going to buy a lot of it. Now, I know it doesn't meet all of the rules according to this system, but I really do love me some Twitter, and if it went to $11 when it's trading at $36 right now, I would probably want to buy all of it that I possibly could afford. Now, there's 2 other forms of pricing that you can do that's from the other book, Invested, which I recommended in the beginning of the broadcast. That's the 10 cap price per share and the payback time price. Read the other book, Invested by Danielle Town, if you want to learn about that as well. So you kind of get a range here. So we're at $11.20 would be the perfect price. That's going to be the lowest possible price. $12 is about the same number, or $15. So if it went to $15, I would probably still buy quite a lot of it, even though it would take 10 years at least to get paid back on that. I still think it would be worth it, and I don't plan on selling these things anytime soon because I believe in the power of compounding, and I think that Twitter will be around for at least 10 more years. At least I hope. Okay, anything else here? Yes, okay, when to sell. So when do you sell it? Well, there's 2 times you want to sell it. 1, when it fails to be a great company. Something happens in those big 5 numbers, the moats are changing, something's not quite right, you want to sell it. Hopefully you made some money off of it. You might not have made as much as you wanted to make off of it, but you don't want to lose a lot of money on it. You don't want it to go all the way to 0 while you're riding that wave. So when it fails to be a great company anymore, you might have to sell it off. Another time is when the price is above the sticker price. So for me, technically, because Twitter is priced at $36 and the sticker price is $22, that might mean that I want to sell it. However, because I didn't really follow all the rules for this, and Twitter just started to report earnings and income this year, and they don't really predict, at least they're not projecting that they're going to have any decrease in that happening. It might not, it's most likely, almost certainly not going to continue to go up at the rate that it's going up now, but it doesn't look like they're going to start losing money, because even though they were losing money before, they were losing less and less money and they're getting closer and closer to profitability every year. So they have been on an upward trend. So they have been going up more than 10% per year, even though they weren't actually reporting earnings in a lot of those years. So for me, I'm kind of like, it's kind of hard to sell it when it's, I only got it for $18. It would have to drop in half to actually for me to lose any money on it, and I would like to think that it's not going to do that. So maybe I'm being a little bit emotional. I think I'm being pretty logical, but you never really know until you cash out and see what you did. Hey Divly, thank you for the super hearts. I just could never forgive myself if Twitter became like an Amazon or Netflix that was like this, really in the low numbers for quite a few years, and then all of a sudden shot up to being like $1,000 per share, and I sold it at $36 per share. I just wouldn't be able to deal with that. I only risked $500 on this, so if I lose $500, it would be a good lesson learned, but it won't really hurt me too much. So that's pretty cool. Thank you, Divly, for those super hearts. We have so many more super hearts to get to our goal. We need 82,000. Well, actually, now we need 81,000 more super hearts to hit our goal for the day. I hope you guys find this content valuable. I mean, I'm trying to help you protect your money, make more money, and teaching you stuff that's really, really valuable. I can't imagine you're going to find much more valuable content than this on Periscope today, in my opinion. I don't know how many people are trying to teach you step-by-step ways to invest your money and make good money. So it would be awesome if you support me through Super Hearts. If you can't, maybe you want to click the link in the profile and support us that way. Lou, thank you for inviting your followers. So we are trying to get to the 3 million Super Hearts this month. We didn't get it to it the last 2 months. I feel like my content has been so good lately. I cut out alcohol from my diet. I don't smoke weed anymore, so I'm like on my A game at all times, and I just think that I'm doing well. So if you like it, please let me know by supporting it. Thank you, Lou. All right, so let me just see if there's any more notes that I wanted to share from my sheet here. Okay, I'm not going to show you that because it's going to be a little bit too crazy. So I'm a hustling business gangster. Thank you, Boxing. Thank you, Boxing. I'm just reading your messages here, or your comments on YouTube, because I had you covered up by my spreadsheet. I like it, Boxing. All right, cool. So the last thing, last thing, guys. Yes, last thing. 3 tools to help you keep track of the big guys. This is a little bit of more advanced technique. This wasn't even in the Invested book that I read by Danielle Town. This is just in Rule Number 1 by Phil Town, and I promise it's the last thing I'm going to teach you, and then we will be done. You made it through an hour of talking about investments and math. Did you ever think you could make it through that? That's not even possible, Juicy. But I appreciate your confidence. Also, later tonight, we're going to come back with more math because I have to keep studying for my placement test, which is tomorrow. And oh my gosh, I have to open my Roth IRA and it's 4:30. Okay. Hey, Sam Stay. The 3 tools. One is MACD, M-A-C-D, Moving Average Convergence Divergence. Look it up online. The MACD for the company that you're looking at. Before a mountain, right before there's a mountain, that's a good time to buy, and right before a valley is a good time to sell. That's just something you can look at. It indicates if there's a lot of money moving in or out of the company. You got it, Devin. Yep. MACD, Moving Average Convergence Divergence. Bingo. The second is stochastics. And all 3 of these things that I'm talking about are the same thing. They're just indicating like big money moving, because that really, really affects the prices. Okay, Godfather. That, again, tracks the big movers. So when the buy line, again, look it up for the company you're looking at. When the buy line crosses up, you buy. When the buy line crosses down, you sell. Okay, when the lines cross. I think it's the buy, there's like the buy line and the price line, I think. When it goes up, you buy. When it goes down, you sell. This is like the stuff that day traders use. I don't use any of this. Maybe I should. This is more advanced than I've ever used before, but I'm just telling you what was in this book. And then finally, the moving average. So when the price line crosses above the moving average, you buy, and when the price line crosses down below the moving average, you sell. Those are the tricks. And remember, if something doesn't jump out to you as a super deal, then it is too close to call. If it doesn't jump out to you as a super deal, it's too close to call. Keep your cash, keep your mutual funds, keep your Roth IRA, 401k, chill out and wait. Wait for your opportunity to strike, wait for a crash, wait for something weird to come out, some kind of big movement, that it goes on super sale, and then make your attack. Get all that you can get. Huge thank you to everyone who supported this broadcast today. DeVleet and Craig, thank you for the super hearts. Someone used your username? What do you mean someone used your username? What does that mean? I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not sure what it means. But also thank you so much to all of the people on this list who have supported this channel. I forgot to change Kieran's number. I'm a bad friend. Let me do that right now. I'm just seeing him at $20.69, but he sent $49 yesterday. So now he's at, oh my, he's at $49. I didn't even realize. Now he's at $69.69. He's a troll. He's a troll, but he's a very supportive troll and one of my best friends, and I like it. $69.69. So I see that there wasn't a ton of interest in this broadcast, but I do think it's really valuable, so I might keep broadcasting about it. I'm gonna have to go through and research all these companies and put their numbers into the spreadsheets anyway, so I might as well do it live. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully I can pull that off while I'm going to school full-time and being a stepmom and running this company. Whew. Help me to make it all possible by clicking that link in the profile, nextjuice.com/support. It is worth it. Hey Gumpy, I am signing off right now. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will be back later to study some math. Again, I have that placement test tomorrow, but I have to get ready for yoga, and I have to get back to all my messages and comments, and I have to read another 45 pages in the book I'm reading right now, The Self-Driven Child. So stay tuned for that review as well. You can also sign up for my book reviews in writing to your email completely for free at nextjuice.com. I send them only 3 times a year. 3 emails all year, once every 4 months, and it has all the books that I've read, reviews and summaries from the last 4 months. So totally valuable, totally worth it, and I don't spam your inbox at all. I send you 1 email every 4 months. So love you guys. I'm working hard on this. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. Remember, I check all my messages, emails, comments, everything, every single week on Monday. That's today. So go get your messages in. If there's anything you want to talk about in private, or any feedback you want to give me, book reviews, book suggestions, anything like that, super thrilled. Thanks for inviting your followers. I drank my greens today. Juicy, I hope you did as well. I'm actually signing off, so hi Fro and bye Fro. This has been A Moment in Time with Taylor. I hope you guys have a good rest of the day. I will be back one more time later tonight, and I hope to see you on the next juice. Tell your friends. Bye.